place. The sense of a place we live in, our city, becomes our center and our point of reference in the world. How we build it speaks of our aspirations, desires, and lifestyle as a society. Knowingly or unknowingly, the architecture of the city where you and me meet grows on us, for our memories are held within space. So, what is the value and quality of architecture in our cities today? With this thought, I begin my thesis. Hi, I'm Nikita Manu, and I'm glad to meet you today. The image here shows a set of buildings from four different states: yellow for Lucknow, blue for Bangalore, green for Surat, and red for Kochi. Had there not been these colors, would one be able to identify which is from where? Why do they lack the sense of space we try to achieve in the academic sphere? As the general trend and perception of the architecture is changing, the thesis questions: why is it so? And is there a way to bring back a losing sense of architecture in the city? Can we fill these gaps in a better way? I would like to present my thesis as these four questions to which I have tried to find answers. Why are we producing localized cities? What is the future of growing urban centers? Can we identify potential in current systems? Is there an alternative to current trends? I now summarize my research as a few points as shown here. How we generally understand architecture has now been reduced to merely a visual image. The trajectory has moved towards wanting to match hierarchical standards of cities set by the capitalist society. What is the role of the state in doing so? Became a question to dwell upon further. Metropolitan cities like Mumbai and Bangalore are examples of how the state has tweaked policies and building codes to suit money minting private developers who create architecture for the public to favor their own personal agendas, making an architecture sensitive to its place and time merely a memory. Probably why the glorious cities continue to remain in the past. We must realize this has also reduced the perception and attachment people have towards architecture and their cities. If the larger of our cities have transformed as such, then what about the future of growing urban centers, which brings us to smart city projects? This is yet again another top down approach to control, curate, and transform cities. But interestingly, the project advertises itself as a completely participatory process of planning, although it has been a failure in reality. The research then looks at Bhubaneswar, Surat, and Kochi to understand the extent of participation in this process, and Kochi proves to have had the most efficient methods. The thesis then looks into the potential of making architecture in the city as a participatory process. Would it make a difference in the current scenario? Can we find some potential in these existing systems? Kochi is one of the few states in the country which follows an absolutely decentralized system as per the 73rd and 74th Amendment of the Constitution. The regular ward meeting conducted by the urban local body has been the most effective way to get all sections of the society together towards decision making. As opposed to other smart city proposals, Kochi showed maximum participation in numbers, but it still accounted for less than 30% of the population. So, what about the rest? In ground reality, the system has its own limitations, making it an opaque one with maximum power to the bureaucracy, although it is an elected body. Can there be a window to allow more transparency before executing projects? Can we decentralize architecture to citizens? Upon further research and case studies of such systems, I conclude with the idea of an urban lab. An urban lab to discuss divergent interests and develop a joint responsibility. A place for collaboration with citizens and the body of the state. A place that reaches out to people through interactive sessions, create more public awareness, and one to act as an extended arm of the urban local body itself. Through case studies, what I identified as important for a system as such to work was 1. To be able to generate discussions and dialogue, and 2. To create more awareness and alternative ideas and critical thinking. I have categorized the intention of the project as a series of goals and associated programs which could potentially facilitate the same. Please pause on the slide for further details. With reference to case study projects such as the Infobox at Potsdamer Platz and Shanghai Urban Planning Exhibition Center, through this thesis, the intervention becomes a space where the future of the city is projected and further extends itself as a space for citizens to take control over. It is also a space for architects, planners, and activists to express opinions and conduct workshops and seminars pertaining to the matter of the city, such that people are more aware of an array of possibilities. It imagines to project a future where the people and the state work hand in hand to create a comfortable urban living in the city, which reflects the various aspirations people have, or is at least a condition where space making is a collective process available and accessible to all. To the left is an area statement, which also gives a ratio of open, closed, and semi open spaces which could potentially be there in the building. Coming to the site, the idea of what is the city center is constantly shifting in Kochi, which is expanding to its northern ends each day. From Fort Kochi, the idea of the city center has shifted to Ernakulam, but continues to be called Kochi. Since the intervention seeks to address and speak to the entire city, it was very important to then find a location which is equally accessible and frequently visited. The site chosen is the Marine Drive ground in the CBD area of Ernakulam, a state-owned land along the Marine Drive walkway used to conduct temporary exhibitions and fairs in the city. This became an appropriate site because of its proximity to all modes of public transport, being the bus, the metro, and the jetty service. Sitting along the edge of a public promenade, it automatically attracts attention of the public into the intervention. Another aspect of the site is its close proximity to the corporation office, a 15 minutes walking time. It allows the intervention to act as an extended arm to the urban local body. The site is also in walking distance from major markets, educational and religious institutions in the city. As an approach to arrive upon a massing, there were two major concerns being, one, this site is a land which is used for temporary purposes such as exhibitions and fairs and is otherwise used as a playground. Therefore, it was very important that the massing must not interrupt these activities and must complement the same. Secondly, the building, as it occupies the ground, would anyway take away land connecting the water and the ground. And hence, it was very important to understand that it has to be a porous ground plane, becoming a thoroughfare, creating an architecture to experience the joy of city life along the promenade. There were two different strategies in order to attempt at achieving the same. One occupies the corner while the other sits linearly parallel to the water edge, as you can see on the images to your right. I felt that the second option was more appropriate as it allowed to give back most of the site for other existing occasional programs. In both strategies, the exercise of creating voids in the mass has been done to conceive the building as a thoroughfare. To the right is the site plan, where you may notice that the intervention sits as a thin strip along the edge, intending to act as an extension of the Marine Drive walkway into the ground with a perpendicular arm connecting it directly to the existing tourist jetty service. To the left are three key advantages the site provides to the project. One is the free movement and accessibility in and out of the site as it comes along the Marine Drive walkway. Two, the project becomes a visual icon to the city as it is a point of arrival for many from the neighboring islands. It is an in-between of the land and water. I personally feel that, especially in the case of island port cities like Kochi or Bombay, the sea has a lot of attachment to the people. It is a point where people understand and people experience a true sense of public life. It was therefore extremely important that the mass of the building to only enhance this experience and connection one feels with the nature and not be hindered between the sea and the ground. Hence, it is at every point the intervention has been designed such that it is a thoroughfare with various different kinds of public activities. What I want this project to eventually achieve is to be able to provide opportunities for conversations to occur. I believe that is the strength of architecture to simply be able to create chances. Therefore, on the ground level, the functions are such that the visiting Marine Drive and walking along remains to be the primary function, and insert to the building serves as ancillary to the same. Please take a moment to look at and read the various programs that have been listed in the building. The ground floor consists of a ticketing counter, a waiting area for the same, where the ground bends to create a sunken courtyard with a dry cafeteria. The footprint is as a thin strip of mass which is anchored by a perpendicular arm. This perpendicular arm is the very portion which attaches itself directly to the tourist jetty. As one walks along the promenade, you encounter the museum, where project proposals, competition panels, etc. are displayed. Here, the large pivoted doors themselves become the display panels, allowing it to be open at all times as a place one could pause while walking through. And it is also designed in such a way that it can be shut as and when required. One then further finds themselves in the small amphitheater which dips down. It could be a place where impromptu or informal discussions take place among citizen groups, and it is placed such that anybody walking along could drop by to listen or participate. This space could otherwise be used to organize cultural events on a day-to-day basis. Here is a reading room attached with a counter for newspaper. This space is where the water comes into the building to become a part of it, creating a moment of pause within. This is the uneven space, which is actually a void, which is left open to be adapted as per people's use in order to accommodate the unforeseen programs. But I imagine the possibility of the space to be taken over by nearby hawkers and street vendors over the evenings or early mornings, or as a place where markets could occur over the weekends, or simply a place where people come together to practice dance and music. Here are a set of views which takes you through the ground floor as an interface for various relationships to occur. Please pause the video to read the description, or you shall continue further. To the first floor plan. Here is a non-ticketed seminar hall for lectures or small movie screenings to occur, which can be directly accessed through these stairs. These stairs also give you access to the ticketed museum, which is at this level, a double-heighted space, and it continues above to the second floor as well. A ramp from the ground floor directly brings you to the upper floor as well. A large receiving deck has been provided such that this becomes an extension of the ground floor for people to hang around. Here there is access to the general library, which is also connected through the internal staircase. All the reading spaces of the library face towards the internal water body, and along the edge it faces towards the backwaters itself. Coming towards the second floor plan, the ticketed museum now continues above here as well, and the exit for the same is located here. The corridor is otherwise used to access the research center. The deck which you see right here is again designed in such a way that it brings a portion of the ground, it brings a portion of the amount of people on the ground to the upper floors to view the water from a certain height, or it is to be enjoyed as a deck, and it is otherwise a waiting area for people who visit the research center or the library. The corridor spaces here and on the floor below become balcony seats to view cultural activities happening in the amphitheater, or it becomes a place to stand and shout about when discussions about the city take place within the perimeter of the amphitheater. Then it takes you to the library again, and in this portion the library has now become an archival library where you have access to most of the plans and all the meetings and recordings that has happened with the city and the people. The research center continues here with a small library counter extending to be a design studio which can be rented out for working professionals as and when required for the projects. There is a spill-out balcony here along with a model making space. Here, the archival library continues to become a co-working space. This encourages young professionals and students to be acquainted with the building on a regular basis. It extends itself into the open as a working space, continuing into this deck again further, where one may find themselves viewing two different skylines on either side. This space could alternatively be used as required to conduct workshops or awareness programs. It is again a place where we try to bring the public life in the ground to the above floors as well. Now coming to the final floor plan, at this level, there is a set of administrative offices for the ward council members to organize themselves and meet people regarding their specific concerns. There is a meeting hall, which is a private one for various stakeholders to have discussions. And then there is a large auditorium to hold meetings or lectures at the city level. And as a breather in between, there is a cafeteria space and an eating area, which serves mostly the officials who occupy the administrative space, or in cases of a large city meeting, it serves the crowd which attends the meeting as well. There are a set of diagrams which show the various relationships the ground creates at various sections. The building hence takes up two different roles at different points, being a transition between two destinations, a museum as a thoroughfare where one could encounter it by chance, a place for cultural activities or informal discussions, a place to pause, and or as an event space. I request you to please pause and read through the description as well. This section cuts across through the museum spaces. On the ground floor, you may notice it to be a space one walks through, whereas above it is a more conventional ticketed museum where permanent exhibitions take place, and the spaces above are common areas of gathering. This particular section cuts through the amphitheater in the center. The amphitheater becomes a place to drop by to witness cultural events. The space creates opportunities for informal meetings or discussions and dialogues. Above this is located the co-working space with large windows looking at the city on one edge and water on the other edge. The topmost floor has the private meeting room for officials. This is an arrangement of the program through a longitudinal section. You may notice that they have been arranged such that one fits into the other. For example, the non-ticketed museum continues to become the ticketed museum above. The research center continues as a design studio for collaboration. The public library continues as the archival library into the co-working spaces. This ensures that there is cross-sectional intersection between programs as well. The system of construction is through a series of portal frames in a 6 by 12 meter bay. The ground floor and first floor are built as heavy masses with 450 mm thick cavity walls, which allows inbuilt furniture and shelves to be designed. This also provides protection from the heat. From the second floor and above, the building becomes lighter with thin walls, exposing its steel members and joineries. These parts receive shade from the large roof overhang supported from the strut. Please pause the video to read further specifications. This is a strip section showing the roofing and the flooring system. PU of insulated roofing sheet has been used to ensure weather protection. The bottom finish of the roof sheet is of plywood panels spanned on timber sections. The roof has skylights at particular points, the detail of which is shown to your right. All floors have been laid using precast concrete panels bolted to the beam network as shown in the detail. Please pause to read the specifications. The gutter detail is also shown here to the right, wherein a clear coated aluminum gutter has been placed within a wooden framework, and it has been attached to the main beam through a set of MS angles. This shows part details of the seawall. The pile foundation have been used across as the site is along the water edge. Detail of the retaining wall with concrete panel facing is shown here. This section cuts across through the internal water body. Water drain gutter have been provided with the tanks to pump out water in case of overflow and otherwise. All windows are of MS frame. These are the water supply calculations for the project. A floating population of 500 has been considered and a fixed population of 102 have been considered as shown here. This is a diagrammatic representation of spaces which require water and where the placement of OHT and UGT have been provided. They have both been provided as they have been divided into two in order to provide more efficient supply of piping network. This is a diagrammatic representation of the water supply diagram. It shows the placement of the UGT in the building and its connection to the main municipal water supply line. This shows a diagrammatic representation of the drainage diagram, which is connected through a series of ICs at every 10 meter and finally connected to a disconnecting chamber and then to the municipal sewer line. These are the rainwater calculations. According to the calculations, there is a lot of water which the roof can collect, but there is and according to which the size of the tank would be 9 meter by 18 meter by 1.5 meter, which is extremely large. Therefore, two water harvesting tanks have been provided in the size of the UGT next to it itself, as shown in the image. And the overflow water is then used to recharge groundwater in soft landscaped areas. So the building totally conserves about 36 cubic meter of water on an annual basis. So this is finally an image which concises what the project would look like on a day-to-day basis, where it sits with the promenade and you have a lot of public life occurring on the foreground, and the building sort of absorbs most of it and is a thoroughfare between the water and the ground. So this illustration has been done in such a way that you notice the water, the building, the ground, and then the sky, and that it is trying to create an intersection of all of these. Thank you.